You're listening to the Matt the Stat Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt the Stat, where we talk about football, baseball, basketball, and everything sports. So today, for my show, I'll be talking to you guys about the Dallas Cowboys Training Camp. We are now 3 days into Dallas Cowboys Training Camp on Oxnard, California, and I'll give you guys my observations and my opinions on what I saw in practice. Now, I was there on day one for Dallas Cowboys Training Camp, and I'm going to give you guys my insight and what I saw on day one, but also give you guys some observations from the past couple of practices on day 2 and 3. The Cowboys, they do not practice today here on a beautiful Friday afternoon. I mean, blue skies, sunny, absolutely gorgeous outside. But I got a great show for you guys today. I hope you guys are enjoying your Friday or the start of your weekend. And, well, you guys don't want to miss this show today because I got a lot of great things to talk about today. But let's jump right into it. The Dallas Cowboys, they started their training camp on Tuesday this week. I was there in person to watch day one of Dallas Cowboys training camp. A lot of excitement around the Dallas Cowboys. A new head coach in Brian Schottenheimer. They traded for George Pickens back on May 7th. And not only that, CeeDee Lamb being back in Oxnard practicing after he held out last year and missed training camp in Oxnard, California last year. But CeeDee Lamb is back. Dak Prescott, he has come back healthy. Right now, there's been the biggest talk around the Dallas Cowboys right now has been Micah Parsons and his contract situation, which we'll get into a little bit today, but we're not going to really get into that fully. That will be a show for another day. But today, mostly, I'm going to give you guys my observations of what I saw in training camp. Now, just to give you guys a little recap of my last show. Now, if you guys have not seen my last show is giving you guys a Dallas Cowboys training camp preview. I recommend you guys go back and watch that because that will give you a lot of context of what I'm going to be talking about today. Now, I was there on day one, and I saw some really good things, a lot of individual drills at the beginning. You see, we didn't really see any 7-on-7s, but, we did get to see full team period, 11-on-11s, and I saw some really good things in full team situations for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, first thing is, seeing Dak Prescott out there practicing, that's a great thing after, he tore his hamstring and, missed all of last season. I mean, he looked pretty good. He was moving around really well. I really like what I saw from Dak Prescott. But really, my first observation from training camp, and I was really watching the new duo at wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, there's really a lot of excitement around this new duo at wide receiver for the Cowboys this year, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. To me, it just felt like every time there was a ball thrown those two guys' way, I mean, you saw CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens catch it. I mean, it was like they didn't really even drop a pass when the ball was thrown their way. And I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, to be honest with you, there were some new things that I also saw. I mean, there was one play where I saw George Pickens where he ran, I think it might have been a curl route or something like that, a curl or a stick route. And he just literally, right when he caught the ball, he turned around and just took off. And I was really impressed by George Pickens there. I mean, he literally split in between two Dallas Cowboys defenders, and he just took off. I mean, the guy has got absolutely blazing speed for someone listed at 6'3". And, George Pickens, he looked really impressive to me. You saw him moving around. Sometimes they would motion him. Sometimes, he would just, be standing in one spot. But they moved him around, and you saw that the Dallas Cowboys utilized him a lot. Now, if there was one guy that I did see them motion quite a bit, it was CeeDee Lamb. You saw CeeDee Lamb in motion quite a bit. At one point, you even saw him lining up in the backfield, which I thought was which I thought was pretty cool. But we also seeing, guys like Kevontae Turpin, I was really interested to see how Kevontae Turpin was going to look. I mean, they were even using him, handing the ball off to him as a running back, not just as a wide receiver, but as a running back. And that is another thing with the Dallas Cowboys that I saw. How are they going to utilize Kevontae Turpin? And I thought they were utilizing Kevontae Turpin in some very interesting ways. But first off, I have to say, the CeeDee Lamb-George Pickens duo, they look already really impressive early on. And I know on day one, there really was no deep balls or anything thrown their way. We really haven't seen that yet. I mean, it was more of the short to intermediate route passing game. You saw a lot of play action on day one with Dak Prescott and Joe Milton. And, I'm really keeping an eye on that backup quarterback spot because, to be honest with you, to me, Joe Milton, I mean, you see the potential in Joe Milton, and this is something that I was talking about with Joe Milton. The guy has got potential. I mean, he had one of the strongest arms in the draft in 2024. I mean, the guy can throw the ball 50, 60, 70 yards down the field with ease. And just seeing it in person is really impressive to me, how he just throws the ball down the field with ease. And, there was one moment with Joe Milton where he was running to his right, and he had to throw the ball on the run, and he overthrew Jalen Brooks. Now, he had Jalen Brooks, who was wide open on that play. Now, the accuracy issues are still a problem for Joe Milton, but the fact is that he has no problem throwing the ball down the field. You saw a couple balls that he has thrown down the field. I mean, especially on day one, even though he didn't really hit anybody deep down the field on day one, he looked really impressive to me. I thought Joe Milton really played well. But, those accuracy issues is something that are still going to have to get worked out. And in no way am I saying that Joe Milton is a finished product or he's going to, be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys this year. In no way would I say something that asinine about Joe Milton being the starting quarterback over Dak Prescott. That just won't happen. But here's the thing with Joe Milton. I think he's had a good first 3 days of camp. You've also seen the Cowboys run some read option with Joe Milton, and I really like what I have seen from Joe Milton. Now, there's still some accuracy issues that he's got to figure out, but I think Joe Milton, what I have seen so far in camp, and there were especially a couple of throws on day two. He hit Jalen Tolbert on a couple of, he hit Jonathan Mingo on a deep ball down the field. He also hit Jalen Tolbert near the sideline when I was there for a big gain. And, you see Joe Milton, what he can do. He's got the potential to be a really good quarterback in this league. Now, is there still, like I said, are there still some things he needs to fix? Yes. Obviously, there's still some things that he needs to fix, but so far, I think Joe Milton is having a good camp. Now, is he having a camp to where he's going to be the starting quarterback over Dak Prescott? In no way am I going to sit here and say something that crazy like Joe Milton is going to be the starting quarterback over Dak Prescott. That's just not going to happen. We all know that the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys is Dak Prescott, and I wouldn't even entertain a thought like that. So Joe Milton, I think he's had a good camp up to this point, and I've loved everything that I've seen from him at this point. So Joe, I think he's had a good camp. Dak, you can obviously see the connection already with Dak Prescott and the two-star wide receivers that the Cowboys had with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, which I've already talked about. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, they already look really good together in camp. You've already seen Dak Prescott build chemistry with George Pickens. I love to see it. You're seeing George Pickens playing really well. And, he's kind of been the guy that we all expected him to be when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers a year ago. And that is a big, explosive playmaking receiver. I even saw Dak Prescott hit George Pickens on a play on day one. and that went for a big gain. So, I'm seeing all these great things. Dak Prescott, I mean, we already know about the rapport between CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, but there's already a chemistry between George Pickens and Dak Prescott, and I love to see that because already George Pickens and Dak Prescott have some chemistry with each other, and I absolutely love that. Now, there was one play on day one of training camp where, there was a miscommunication between George Pickens and Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott, to me, looked like he was trying to throw something short, and George Pickens went deep, and there was a miscommunication there, and then you saw Brian Schottenheimer run over to George Pickens, you saw Dak Prescott run up to George Pickens, and you saw Dak Prescott tap his chest and say, hey, man, that was my fault. So, you already see that, the Cowboys are still getting those kinks out of the way. And right now, the pads aren't on. But so far, what I've seen, for the most part, besides that miscommunication between Pickens and Dak Prescott, is really good because the chemistry, to me, is there between George Pickens and Dak Prescott. So far, what I've seen, I've loved everything that I've seen so far. A lot of that practice, you saw very early on in those full team periods, the Cowboys were running the football quite a bit early on day one. You were seeing a lot of Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Deuce Vaughn, Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa. You saw a lot of those guys run the football. It was run heavy early. Eventually, the Cowboys started throwing the ball down the field more. And there was also one play during that scrimmage, and going back to Joe Milton really quick, Joe Milton made a throw down the middle with pressure in his face and the pocket kind of collapsing around him, and Joe Milton kind of stepped up in the pocket, made a beautiful throw over the middle to rookie tight end Tyler Neville, and I thought that was a really impressive throw. I think that was one of Joe Milton's best throws of the day, was that throw down the middle to Tyler Neville. And that's what I'm talking about. I think Joe Milton has had a good first 3 days. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm really liking what I've seen so far. I think, the Dallas Cowboys, I was kind of expecting the Dallas Cowboys to do a lot of 12 personnel this year. That was kind of the thing that you saw. Now, a lot of you guys that don't know what 12 personnel is, 12 personnel is 2 tight ends, a running back, and 2 wide receivers. So that's basically what 12 personnel is. So they're doing a lot of that, a lot of play action. I saw a lot of good things. I think, when we look at the running back room right now, I mean, there really isn't so far a clear through the first 3 days. I haven't seen a guy that, to me right now, that's saying, oh, he's gonna be that dude come week 1 in September. I haven't seen it so far. Now, I've seen some good things. Javonte Williams coming over from the Denver Broncos. I've seen a couple of good runs out of him. Miles Sanders coming over from the Carolina Panthers, spent a couple of miserable years up there in Charlotte, North Carolina. I think I saw him make a couple of nice runs. Jaden Blue, you can see that he's not just a weapon as a pass catcher, but he can run in between the tackles really well. So, I've seen a lot of good things, but it's very early on, and it's really hard for me to sit here and say right now who is running back 1, because right now, to me, it's running back by committee. Now, do I really like hearing about running back by committee? Not really. I don't really like the running back committee type thing. But right now, that's what it is. I mean, right now, it is running back by committee. I think, you've seen some good things from Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. I mean, even Deuce Vaughn, I think, has looked really impressive early on in camp. But I wouldn't say Deuce Vaughn has done enough to make me say, okay, he's going to be, running back 1, or he's going to be running back 2 right now. So, with the running back situation, I'm seeing some good things from the guys, but really, to be honest with you, when the pads come on, we'll really get to see on Sunday who is really making the most progress at the running back position. And as far as the wide receiver goes, I know I've kind of been all over the place here, but, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, we know how good they look. A guy to me, and if you guys had asked me who was my guy that could possibly be a breakout player this year in camp, and one of the guys that I would have chosen was wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. And Jonathan Mingo, to me, has had a really good camp. I mean, he's got the size. He really struggled last year with the Dallas Cowboys, learning a new playbook, all that kind of stuff under Mike McCarthy. And then this year, learning a whole new playbook with Brian Schottenheimer now being the head coach. But, here's the thing. I think Jonathan Mingo's had a great camp up to this point. You're seeing him, creating some separation down the field. He's kind of like one of those guys that, could make those contested catches, 50-50 balls down the field. So I'm seeing a lot of good things from Jonathan Mingo. I've been really impressed with him early on. Now, he does have some competition at the wide receiver spot. I mean, Jalen Tolbert has not been looking too terrible so far. And, there's a couple other guys out there right now, to me, that could easily compete with Jonathan Mingo for a spot on this roster. You still have Kevontae Turpin. There's a couple of young rookie wide receivers in Trayshawn Holden and Josh Kelly, which I haven't really heard much about since training camp has started. But you have guys like that out there. But I think Jonathan Mingo, he's had a good camp up to this point. And I really like what I saw. Him and Joe Milton connected a couple times. They almost connected on one deep ball down the field on day 2. So I'm really seeing some good things from Jonathan Mingo. And, really to me right now, if he's going to make this team, right now he's playing really well. But, he's going to have to do some special teams stuff and all that. So we'll see how it goes. So far, I've loved what I've seen from Jonathan Mingo up to this point. And, that wide receiver 3 spot is still a battle. I mean, it's really between Jonathan Mingo and Jalen Tolbert. We'll see how Kevontae Turpin will be used. And we already kind of saw that a little bit these first 3 days. You've seen, Kevontae Turpin being used in motion. We've seen him line up as a running back in the backfield, and they hand it off to him. I mean, there was one play when I was there on Tuesday where he had a big explosive play running to the outside. I mean, it all looked really good to me, and I think Brian Schottenheimer right now, from what I've seen, how the way they're utilizing Turpin, they are utilizing him the right way, and that was something that was talked about, Mike McCarthy not utilizing Turpin in the right way. Now, we all know Turpin, he's going to be big for them this year again, special teams-wise. He's been really good as a return specialist for them. That's where I mostly see him getting his production. But, I really like how Brian Schottenheimer is using him. They're using him in multiple different ways, and I really like what I have seen and how Schottenheimer is utilizing Kevontae Turpin. So those are just some of my observations on the offensive side of the ball. Now, when we go to the defensive side of the ball, I just really quickly want to talk about one rookie right now that is really having an outstanding training camp, and that is a second-round draft pick out of Boston College, Donovan Ezaraku. And I just have really liked what I've seen. This guy really knows how to rush the passer. I mean, you watch this guy, he really knows how to get to the quarterback. He's been really good. And I really liked what I've seen from Donovan Ezaraku. Now, if he continues playing the way he is playing, I mean, I could see a 3-headed monster on the edge for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of pass rush. We already know about Micah Parsons. We already know about Dante Fowler. But you add Donovan Ezaraku on here, I mean, this Cowboys pass rush is going to be scary if Donovan Ezaraku continues to play how the way he's playing through training camp, through preseason, and into the regular season. I mean, Donovan Ezaraku, this guy could really be a star in the making. And I tell you what, if he keeps it up, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a very scary pass rush, because right now that's what it is shaping out to be. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Donovan Ezaraku. He has been disruptive in the backfield. He's looked really good. I've liked what I've seen so far from Ezaraku going in. He's been probably, to me, the most impressive rookie on the defensive side of the ball right now. Maybe in for the whole entire training camp up to this point through the first 3 days of practice. I've really seen a lot of great things from Donovan Ezaraku. Now, we go into the interior of the defensive line, and, I'm not really, right now it's too early. It's really hard to tell, With linemen, it's really hard to tell who's right now standing out in terms of linemen, but if there's one guy to me that's standing out right now, it's on the defensive side of the ball, and that is Donovan Ezaraku. Now, another lineman that has been standing out so far in camp, and really quickly, I forgot to mention this going back to the offensive side of the ball, but Tyler Guyton, to me, looks like he has made a big improvement from last year. I mean, he looks more comfortable. He doesn't look as confused as he did last year. I mean, he had a pretty rough first year with the Dallas Cowboys in his rookie season. I mean, he got benched at one point. He didn't look really great. Besides the Week 1 game last year against the Cleveland Browns, where he looked outstanding Week 1 last year in Cleveland. But really, other than that, it was a struggle for Tyler Guyton. But so far, what I've seen in camp from Tyler Guyton is he looks more comfortable. He looks really good. It doesn't look like he's giving up a lot of pressures and sacks like he was a year ago where he really struggled. He looks a lot better. He looks more comfortable. So I like what I'm seeing from Tyler Guyton up to this point at left tackle. And, here's the thing with Tyler Guyton. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying that he needs to look like a Tyron Smith or, a Mark Tulinay. No one is asking him to be those two guys. I mean, those guys, Tyron Smith, a Hall of Famer. Are we asking him to be like Zach Martin? No. I mean, speaking of a guy that will be in the Hall of Fame, like Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, both of those guys will be in the Hall of Fame. But, the one thing you do want to see from Tyler Guyton is make that step. And I think he's taken another step forward. Now, when the pads come on, we'll see if he's able to do what he's done so far, which, so far I really like what I've seen from Tyler Guyton. Like I said, we're not asking him to be a Zach Martin or a Tyron Smith, okay? I'm not sitting here saying that he needs to be those guys, but if he can be good and, protect Dak Prescott's blind side, so far he's done a great job of it through the first 3 days of camp. So hopefully, and I'm hoping myself that it continues through most of training camp, and especially on Sunday on the first day of pads, because I really like what I've seen from Tyler Guyton. Now, as far as linemen go, Tyler Booker, I've seen some good things from Tyler Booker. There was a couple times where he kind of got beat off the line of scrimmage. But to me, I've seen some good things from Tyler Booker. Now, I can't go into too much detail, but I have seen a lot of great things from Tyler Booker. Now, another guy on that offensive line that to me has been really impressive is Nate Thomas. Now he's been lining up as the second team left tackle. He's not really playing with the starters, but he's been like a second, third team tackle. He's looked really good at left tackle. I've seen some really good things. I've also heard some things about Nate Thomas. He's had a really impressive camp for a second-year guy. And Nate Thomas was, I think, a seventh-round draft pick out of Louisiana Lafayette. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But really, we didn't see much of him last year. He mostly spent most of the year hurt on the injured list. But he looks really good right now. Now, Nate Thomas is another guy that I really like right now, and I've heard a lot of great things about him so far in camp through the first 3 days. He's been another guy that's been impressive. So those are just some of the observations with the linemen on the defensive line. Really, the only guy I've really heard about is Donovan Ezaraku making a big impact. I've heard some good things about Kenneth Murray and Sanborn and Leafau at the linebacker spot. I think Kenneth Murray has looked really good in camp so far. I mean, like I said in my last show, I mean, Kenneth Murray led the Titans in tackles last year with 95. So I think Kenneth Murray, if he can be that run stopper and also be that tackling machine that he was with the Tennessee Titans, I mean, he's going to be really good for the Dallas Cowboys. And right now, the Dallas Cowboys, they need some help stopping the run. And, you know, another guy actually to me that hasn't looked too bad is Mazi Smith. Now, you know, we talk about the last couple of years with Mazi Smith. He hasn't looked really great. He hasn't looked up to par. But to me, he's lost some weight. He looks really good. You know, I mean, the interior run defense on the defensive line still a little shaky at times. But, you know, I'm seeing some good things from Mazi. You know, I haven't really heard anything about Jay Toia so far, even though I really like Jay Toia. I haven't really heard anything from about King Basote, those two rookies on the defensive line yet. But, you know, once the pads come on, we'll really start to figure out how things are working out. But so far, I mean, it's been up and down in terms of the interior run defense on the defensive line. But I'm seeing some good things from some guys, though. Like Mazi Smith, I'm seeing some good things. He lost a little weight. He looks lighter. He looks better. But right now, you know, we'll see. But those are just some of the things that I saw on the defensive line. Linebacker, like I said, I've heard some things about Kenneth Murray and Maris Leafau. So some good things coming from there. You know, safety, not really much to talk about at safety right now because, you know, I mean, I'm not really worried about safety. Malik Hooker, you know, Donovan Wilson, yeah, a lot of people are saying that his job might be up for grabs, which that might be true in a way. But, you know, I mean, there are some young guys on that team that, to me, could really compete with him. And one of those guys is Elijah Clark, who I really like, but really have not heard anything about these first 3 days of camp. But really, to me, you go to the cornerback spot, and that's another position that I really want to go over with you guys quickly is that corner, because Trayvon Diggs is out right now. He's not available. One of their other rookie corners, Savon Revel, is also hurt and right now is starting on the physically unable to perform list alongside Trayvon Diggs. So right now, Trayvon Diggs, even though he's out there at practice, he's not really participating in practice. He's just kind of warming up on the side and doing all these different exercises and stretches while practice is going on. But to me right now, when I look at the cornerback position, and not only that, Deron Bland, even though he participated in day one of Dallas Cowboys training camp, he is right now out dealing with a family thing. He's having a new kid. Congratulations to Deron Bland on the newborn baby. Right now, he's not at camp with the Cowboys in Oxnard. But really what I've seen so far at the cornerback position is, one, the veteran cornerback coming over from the Buffalo Bills, Kaiir Elam, I think has been a guy that has looked really impressive. I think he's done a great job so far. I mean, the Cowboys are asking a lot of Kaiir Elam because of Trayvon Diggs being out. And I've liked what I've seen from Kaiir Elam. I think he's having to shoulder quite a lot here early on with Trayvon Diggs out. And not only that, I mean, right now they don't even have Deron Bland. So I like what I've seen from Kaiir Elam. Now, another guy that I've really liked what I've seen from is Keemon Hall. Now, I talked about Keemon Hall on my last show, and, you know, Keemon Hall was kind of one of those guys that's a journeyman. You know, he really hasn't been able to stay on an NFL roster. He's been in multiple places. He even had a stint with the Dallas Cowboys back in 2020, which he did not make the team. He's now on his second stint with the Dallas Cowboys. He spent all of last year on the Cowboys practice squad. This year, he has been looking pretty good, and I think he's been really impressive so far in training camp. And I mean, and he's going up against guys like, you know, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and he's looking pretty good. So, and yesterday, Keemon Hall and CeeDee Lamb kind of got into a little shoving match yesterday, but, it was broken up quickly and, no big deal there. But really, to me right now, I really like what I've seen from those two guys at cornerback. I think Kaiir Elam and Keemon Hall have been the most impressive at cornerback so far, and I've really liked what I've seen from those guys. Now, when it comes to the fights, and for some reason, this seemingly is always a huge topic every year, not just really with the Cowboys, but around the NFL about these training camp fights. But here's the thing with training camp. Now, there's going to be some fights that are going to happen. It happens every year, okay? Football's a very physical game. And guys are going to get tired of each other, and they're going to push and shove. And, you really don't want to see guys, throwing punches at each other. A little shoving match is all right. But but on day 2 of training camp on Wednesday, things seemingly got a little out of control. You saw Tyler Neville and Marquise Bell started throwing punches at each other on Wednesday. And not only that, Troy Pride Jr. ended up getting hit in the process, and he ended up being checked out. And Brian Schottenheimer had to bring the team together, and, he yelled a couple of F-bombs that, I can't really repeat here on this show, but, had some, choice words for the Dallas Cowboy, for the whole team, and, that kind of squashed everything. And then, yesterday, CeeDee Lamb and Keemon Hall kind of gave CeeDee Lamb a shove after he caught the ball for a touchdown, and then CeeDee Lamb threw the ball at Keemon Hall, and then, those two guys almost started swinging at each other, but thanks to their teammates, they came in really quickly and broke that up before both of those guys started swinging at each other. But here's the thing. It's going to happen. You just don't want to see these guys do it in an actual game setting. Now, that's where you can get yourself fined and get yourself suspended and get yourself into a lot of trouble. That's the kind of stuff that you don't see. Now, the fights aren't really a big deal to me. Now, where they do come a big deal to me is when you have guys swinging at each other and they're throwing fists at each other with helmets on. I find that incredibly ridiculous because, first off, you throw a closed fist you throw a closed fist and you throw a punch at someone with a helmet on with a closed fist. I guarantee you that's going to hurt, and that could break your hand, and you could be out for quite some time because of that. So, I don't get that kind of stuff. I don't understand why guys would even try to swing at each other with a helmet on, but I understand the game. Things get a little heated sometimes. These, like Dak Prescott said, after the practice yesterday, these guys are fighting for a job. They're fighting for their livelihood. So, things are going to get a little physical sometimes, and things are going to get a little heated, and that happens. You just don't want it. You just don't want those things to go out of control like it did on Wednesday, from reports, not from me. This is just coming from reports that I heard, but you don't want to see it get out of control. Now, is it going to be the last time that we're going to see a little shoving and pushing match throughout training camp? No, it's not. I don't mind the pushing and shoving. That happens in football. But, you can't have the wild brawls and fights and all that kind of stuff, and guys getting hurt like Troy Pride Jr. did, getting hurt from a stray punch. So, you don't want to see that kind of ugliness in training camp. And also the other thing that you have to realize is that your teammates, and, you don't want to go too far beyond that. You guys are wearing the same uniform, the same helmet, and you don't want to really take it beyond that. So, I get it. I understand it. Like I said, I'm not trying to come on here and be a hypocrite, but, the fights, if you were to do that in an actual game setting, you'd get kicked out of the game if you did that in an actual game setting. Now, do I expect the fights to happen? Yes, I expect the fights to happen, and I would expect over this next week and a half, we're going to see some more pushing and shoving in these little skirmishes that break out. So really, to me, the fights, they're really no big deal. And, it's not the last time we're going to see those little pushing and shoving matches happen. But that's all that I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed my observations of training camp. Also, not only that, I will be at training camp for the Dallas Cowboys. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So if you guys see me around, be sure to say hi, because I do not have a problem saying hi to you guys. So if you see me out there, please say hi. I don't bite. So you're more than welcome to come and say hi. If you recognize me, I'll be out there Saturday and Sunday, and I'll be watching the first day of pads. I'll be very interested to see what the first day of pads are going to bring. I'll definitely be watching the offensive defensive line quite a bit on Sunday, but also I'll be watching out for the other positions as well. You're listening to the Matt the Stat Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt the Stat. I will talk to you guys next week.